Okay.
Because I do subtitles.
You do?
Of course.
Subtitles. Okay. More and more younger people are using them when watching not only movies but TV shows. So we're going to take a deep dive into why. I do too, and it all started during Game of Thrones.
Well, that helps, because the names and the
plot line.
Yeah.
Did you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Okay. I had trouble because there's like, I mean, how many concurrent plots and names? Exactly. All the family names and all the different places in the realm.
Yeah.
It really helps
you
us
keep
out
things
a lot. And
straight.
so ever since then, we have never gone back.
Yeah.
We have never gone, even if it's a simple plot movie. If like Theo will be watching a movie, I'm like, hey Theo, can we, it's like The Sandlot.
Put on subtitles.
Well, I told these guys too, like, because we were talking about it before the show and like how maybe you're distracted and then the subtitles help, but I will be in bed with the phone 5 inches from my face, headphones in, and I still have the subtitles on.
Explain that. Walk me through that, because you have clear audio with your earbuds, right? But you're still reading.
Yeah. But I don't know if I do read. That's the weird part. It's like, am I reading it? Do I even look at it? I know they're on. Maybe every once in a while I read it. I don't know. I'm confused.
I think if it's a first-time watch for me, then I will, because even like right now, it's award season, right? And it's all the Oscar movies, and they're sending me a lot of these screeners to watch at home because we've got to vote for the awards a lot of times before the movies come out. So a lot of these movies I'm watching at home, and I will put on subtitles, and I make sure if it's the first time I'm seeing this, subtitles have got to be on there. If it's I'm pretty sure I could put on Jurassic Park without subtitles and be
okay.
Just fine.
Here's the thing. Have you guys ever had a moment in your subtitle watching career where you're like, wait,
that's what they were saying? To your point, actually, like it's usually movies like a movie that I watched a million times as a kid that I always heard maybe a line and didn't understand what they were saying. I'm like, that's it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Boom.
Okay.
So I will put them on for those moments.
It can be. Sandlot would be a great example for that. I'm sure there are some lines in there.
Where
you're killing me, Smalls?
You're killing me. Oh.
That's what he was saying.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Okay. TMZ is here.
They're here.
Please tell me it's Michael Babcock. Yes, it is.
No, unfortunately, it's not.
Sorry, no offense.
No offense. Listen, I just read off what was on the card.
You didn't have an updated card.
It's all good. Sometimes I come on stations when I fill in for him, and his name is under me. So at least his name is not up on the screen.
Hey, Branson.
Yeah, it's Branson.
Branson Quirk.
How do we say your last name? Is it Quirk or Quirky?
It's Quirk. It's Quirk. I was called Quirky on Live Now yesterday, but people just forget. It's okay.
Yeah,
well, it's a great last name.
And I love your first, Branson. How cute.
That's such a great name.
It's a great name.
That's a great name.
Missouri, guys.
We don't even want Michael Babcock anymore.
Tell him that. Take a couple days.
Branson, we got a little ground to cover here too. Why don't we start off with Cardi before we get to these Epstein files and the Hollywood impacts there?
Let's talk about the baby.
Let's start with Cardi B. Is that okay? Caitlyn loves everything involved with babies.
Yes.
Update us on. I understand there were some photographic releases by Miss Cardi B. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so she gave us a first look now at their newborn baby with Stefon Diggs, and she just captioned it November 4th under that photo. So this is the first time we're actually seeing their baby. We know that she had kept it under wraps for about a week before she had revealed that she had the baby. And we even here at TMZ actually got video of her already at the gym shortly after having her baby. So she's already in tour mode, getting ready for that tour that she has coming up early next year. I mean, talk about so fast, right? Going right back to that and getting ready for everything. But no one other than Cardi B, right? But we don't know the name of this baby just yet, this baby boy. But we do know that Stefon Diggs teased the fact that he actually was really hoping that they would have a boy, and he completely got his wish. So so great for them. We know that she does have some interesting previous names, including Culture, Blossom, Wave, of her other 3 children with Offset. So I'm really interested to see what this baby name could be. Could we kind of predict? Do you guys have any predictions on what that might be?
Blossom is so cute. Maybe River. I don't know, but I do have to say, I was like Cardi. When you're pregnant, you guys, it's like you can't sit like this comfortably. You can't breathe because you've got
weight on your lungs.
Yes. So when you have the baby, finally, it's like I could do anything. So I don't blame her. I was out there
back
just
in the
like, let's do
gym?
these YouTube videos, move your muscles.
How long after labor did you go back to the gym?
Well,
I mean, you went through a phase where every morning I saw you.
You know,
okay.
so
Oh, that's harder recovery.
I wanted to do it earlier, but they tell you not to. So I'm sure she has a doctor.
But I'm also much more impressed by anything that you're doing post giving birth, because with all due respect to Cardi B, correct me if I'm wrong, she's got a team of people. I think anything that you did, to me, is infinitely more impressive. Because you don't have the Cardi B team.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's awesome. And her
Branson,
baby is
it standard for these celebrities to pixelate? You know, I mean, let's be honest, most babies look pretty similar.
Yeah.
They all come out looking like elderly men.
Yep. Like Benjamin Button.
Yes.
Is the pixelation that Cardi B used, is that pretty standard operating procedure in Hollywood these days?
And honestly, you know, I wouldn't expect anything else. To be honest, it does happen time and time again. But I will say, to the point of going back to the gym point, where celebrities really, this is actually a very common thing, that celebrities go back to the gym very, very soon after. I mean, you look at the Kardashians, they did the exact same thing. You look at many other celebrities, and this is just a very common trend. And you're so right. Not everybody has that team around them to help them, because it can be dangerous to go back to the gym, you know, with their blood pressure going up and everything. It can be very dangerous, especially with something like only, what, a week afterwards?
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Just taking it slow. That's awesome.
I have a stupid question, and I don't mean to be negative about this whole thing, because, you know, baby's healthy, mom's healthy, that's great. What is the point of releasing the photos if you're going to pixelate the baby's face? It feels a little bit more about her than it does the baby.
Well, it's good engagement. It's good engagement, right? At the end of the day, it's going to do well. But I don't know. We've seen this time and time again. Celebrities just feel that this is the best way to go about it. And I do believe that it does work, because, I mean, another example of a celebrity that did a good job in, for example, just hiding the name of their child is Post Malone. You know, we still don't know the name of his 3-year-old daughter, so he's done a very good job at keeping that out of the public eye.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, so, you know, I think it's a very necessary thing to be able to share your family to the world, because everybody wants to see the family, these moments and everything. And it also helps with speculation, because fans like to just speculate anything. We've seen this with Prince Harry, Meghan Markle. A lot of people, whatever they do, people criticize. So sometimes it's just better to show exactly what happens and then kind of just take all of those rumors out of play.
That
Also,
makes total sense.
Listen, I see a baby cheek there that I want to nuzzle.
Oh, there you go. So it's not a complete washout, Jake.
I like
you see a pixelated square of a baby cheek you want to nuzzle. You're like, give me that pixelated cheek.
We are joined by Branson Quirk. He's from TMZ. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back with Branson, obviously the Epstein files, huge political story. Hey, will its tentacles reach into Hollywood?
Yeah.
We're going to be talking to Branson about that when we come back after this.
What happened during the breaks of this show. I always tell people we should have a show within a show.
Show within a show. Yeah, I know.
What happens during the breaks?
How many FCC violations would we rack up?
Well, I know our GM is somewhere around here, so I'm going to say 0.
I just was pressuring Jake into having babies. That's all. That's all.
Right.
I should call the FCC after this.
Babies are the best.
Branson,
right.
let's dive in. Okay, we're going to make a hard right turn here. The Epstein files. Okay, we've been kind of checking in with some of our colleagues that work on Capitol Hill. You are first and best line into the world of Hollywood. What are you guys reporting with regard to these Epstein files? Does he have, did he have his tentacles into the celeb situation out there in Southern Cal?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, we've seen a lot of celebrities react to this, obviously, all the way back to July. I mean, we were reporting on Kevin Spacey this morning and how he doesn't have his home. So I immediately thought of him and his comments about Jeffrey Epstein files himself, who's dealt with some interesting allegations and charges in the past. He called for the full release of the Epstein files, as many other celebrities have as well, including Paul Walter Hauser, who consistently post about this as well. I've seen many celebrities calling for this release. We've also seen criticism of, reporters like Megyn Kelly and everything in their comments about this. So yes, it is a very big topic here in Hollywood, but it's also kind of one of those taboo topics that people try to stay away from. So when I see actors posting about this, generally it's kind of seen as a bit brave to speak about this, because it's a very divisive issue, because you're looking at conservative and Democrats, and then obviously we see Donald Trump calling Jeffrey Epstein a Democrat himself, saying that he was a lifelong Democrat for years, saying that that the people on these files are just going to be all the Democrats. And then now we have celebrities that are starting to speak out about the fact that the GOP is okay with releasing these files, essentially because another source said that the Republicans are being removed from the files, and that's why Donald Trump has kind of changed his entire perspective on releasing these. It's very interesting how quickly this all came together. All of a sudden, these are just being completely released, right?
Is there a way to, if the files end up being released and we can just sort of view them as the general public, are we going to be able to tell if things have been redacted, if anything has been changed about them, or will we just not know?
Look, guys, I tell everybody this, as the general public, at the end of the day, I think we will never know exactly what has been edited, what hasn't been edited, because, again, the way I think about this is, look at the fact that the Democrats, before Donald Trump got elected, look at the fact that they didn't release any of these files either back then, and they had, the full opportunity to do exactly so. So it makes you wonder, was there anybody else on those files that on the other side that pushed back on releasing those? Because you'd think they would absolutely have released these files to go against Donald Trump and his run for president. Am I right?
Right. A lot of questions lingering here. Branson, we appreciate your time, man. Thank you for taking time for us on Chicago Now.
Have a great day.
Yeah, have a great day, sir. Hope to see you soon. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're actually going to be speaking about a new documentary film. Sounds absolutely fascinating. It's showing audiences how new technology is actually helping some folks heal generational trauma.
Wow.
We'll be back with that story when we come back.
If you're new
The other one is the PC version is in attention for the BAFTA Game Awards.
Oh, all right.
Where should I be looking, guys?
Oh,
16,
we're here. So it's just going to be us, and we got that one. That's going to be the best shot of you.
That shot is
no bueno.
Not great today.
And we got to get, Caitlin, we got to get used to that view for about a day, don't we?
Yes, we do. The cloud's not going anywhere. Today would be the perfect day, actually, to stay inside.
Okay.
Maybe watch a movie. This morning, we are joined by filmmaker and technologist Victoria Boussis. She made this movie called Darkness to Light, When Technology Heals Generations. And the film follows a 14-year-old Cambodian girl who uses virtual reality to see the memories of a genocide survivor. So, my goodness, Victoria, let's start with your idea for this topic. How did this come about?
It actually happened organically. I'm not a documentarian. I'm a technologist, so I use always emerging technology to tell stories. And when I was in Cambodia and I filmed and I saw how silence had broken open in a country where shame and fear had pretty much dictated and shadowed this country, I looked at the footage and I was so struck by what I saw there and so emotionally vested in it that I wrote a Rolling Stone article. And that Rolling Stone article ended up becoming very cinematic, and I'm like, there's a documentary here. And so I said, okay, let's make a documentary. So that's what happened.
Give us a little bit of background about the trauma, the generational trauma that young Cambodians are facing.
Yeah, well, you know, it's devastating when, you know, war happens and such tragedies and atrocities occur. It's even more devastating when these atrocities occur by your own people. So during the time of 1974 through 1979, the Khmer Rouge were Cambodians who were thought to be liberators, ended up being people that actually killed a third of the Cambodian people. And because of the fact that they were Cambodians killing other Cambodians in a country that is very religious and very Buddhist, there was a lot of shame around that. In the countrysides, as we filmed various schools and school children, no one even knew about the Khmer Rouge or the history. It had been completely whitewashed. In the city itself, the capital of Phnom Penh, you saw a little bit more of that knowingness because people had returned back to the city. So when I saw that, it really, really resonated with me that this country was so shamed by that generations did not speak about the past. It was the untold, and therefore the youth didn't know what their ancestors had gone through, and they just lived in this sense of this hushedness. And I think that created trauma not only to the survivors, which now would be their grandparents for this 14-year-old girl, but also to her parents, because they couldn't speak about it in the home. So eventually, this is something that permeates a lot of countries, not just in Cambodia. I think generational trauma exists even in modern-day tragedies, and unless dialogue is created and that silence goes away, healing doesn't begin.
So you mentioned that you're a technologist. How did technology heal generations, or is healing generations?
Yeah, so in this technology that we use virtual reality, and virtual reality is a very powerful medium. It's the only medium to date that you can actually step inside the shoes of another person and truly feel and experience their journey. Now, that's called an embodied experience, right? And because of this embodiment, there's a lot of neuroscience behind it that shows that it's a powerful medium. Because of the immersion, because it's multisensory, what happens is you start feeling the same emotions that that person felt while you experience a journey. Because of the interactivity using the controllers, you navigate and actually impact the narrative with agency. So you feel you are really present there. This boosts your memory retention of that experience up to 70%, which is huge for education, huge for awareness. Together, there's proof that it creates behavioral change. Up to 125% of the people, when they remove the headset, feel compelled to do something about it. And that's a huge number, because what you're doing actually is you're empowering people to become agents of change, heroes themselves in the real world. And that's pretty massive. So when we had survivors and the youth and just countless people go in that headset and they emerge, and this little girl comes out and she says, I feel so proud that someone could survive Pol Pot. That word, I felt proud. I said, just resonated with my heart, and that was a moment that I knew that we were successful and we had done something really magical in Cambodia as well.
You know, I'm a big believer of necessity is the mother of invention, right? And we have generations of kids now who did not grow up without one of these in their hands, and I'm just sort of curious, what lessons other people could be, other companies, teachers, storytellers, filmmakers could be learning, because a lot of these kids, they're not necessarily maybe learning by going to the library and using the Dewey Decimal System anymore, and you've got to kind of use this sort of technology if you want to teach the harder lessons to sort of make sure that you are captivating them long enough for the message to get through.
Yep. I think it's a great question, and I think you're totally spot on. I think attention now has dropped down to 2 to 3 seconds, and I've witnessed, you know, a young girl on an airplane surf like 3 different platforms, if not more. And so I think what the headset allows you to do is, when you're in that space, you're vested. You're not looking at your phone, you're not TikToking, you're not Instagramming, and you're really focused on the narrative. And by it being interactive, they're actually doing something. They're not just passively observing a screen and just flipping through screens. And because the immersion is so powerful, especially in a subject like this, right? You really start to fight for this family. You really want to know what happens next. And then they emerge and they ask you a million questions. Where is the book? So now they want to read the book. Where is this man? Did he ever find his son? And that's what you want. So I think the bottom line is finding methods that almost gamify learning, that invite youngsters to participate in that learning. That is where I think the trick is, and where the results actually are happening.
Sounds like you're already getting some great results. We are speaking with Victoria Busa. She's a technologist and a filmmaker. She is behind the new documentary, Darkness to Light, When Technology Heals Generations. And I understand this could be in contention for a little award ceremony that you're very familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
Called the Oscars. We're going to have more with Victoria when we come back after this short break. We're going to talk to her about how she decided to structure this piece of filmmaking when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. We're speaking with technologist and filmmaker Victoria Busa about her brand new project, Darkness to Light, When Technology Heals Generations. And this film follows a 14-year-old Cambodian girl who uses virtual reality to see the memories of a genocide survivor. This is the 50th anniversary of the genocide in Cambodia. Victoria, in making this film, can you tell us how you decided to structure it the way you did?
It kind of structured itself, to be honest. With documentaries, you don't know what you're going to get until you actually see the footage. So when we saw this young girl change from, you know, what we talked about, fear and shame and living with that in her household, to a sense of pride, I said, that's the hook. That's the hook of the film. And from there, we started structuring it. And weaving that story, we actually weaved in the historical context for people. Then we actually went into what started as a calling and a promise to one father to tell his story to the world, ended up becoming a global responsibility to reunite families from around the world. So that started to become, you know, going around film festivals, 28 countries, technology conferences, and eventually at the United Nations and policy reform summits. So it started to become that, and that's when we wove that narrative into that and showed that it's not only about Cambodia, it's about other countries and what we can do today to help reunite modern-day families.
Are you hoping to maybe, how would you supply virtual reality headsets to more people? Because I can imagine that they're kind of hard to get their hands on.
This is the hardest part, and this is why Darkness Tonight was so important to create. When we went around the world, it's one headset per person, and the experience is 45 minutes. And as much as I carried those Pelican bags across the globe, and they're heavy, let me tell you, it's still one headset per person. And there's 15 million headsets in the world right now. But a documentary, 27 minutes, that can contain your attention for that long, because it's done in a certain stylistic manner, which is very quick and dynamic, I felt can be accessible on every mobile device. And that's when we create reach. And weaving in the game into it, and the experience of this young girl, and then the rest of it, I felt that people would then be provoked to find out more about the laptop, the PC version, and also the VR experience.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned the impact that this technology had on a 14-year-old girl, but you also mentioned taking this around to film festivals, and you know, I've been to a few film festivals, and they can be, with all due respect to the people that go to film festivals, some curmudgeon-y, sometimes jaded movie fans that roll in there already hating a project before they've even seen it. Was it harder to win over the more jaded Cannes attendees with this sort of story and this technology? Were they more open to it than maybe you thought they were going to be?
Well, I think it's changed a lot, because the biggest film festivals now, Cannes, Venice, Tribeca, all have an immersive section. And that's a statement that people are curious about emerging technology. So the people that come are very curious about it. So I didn't have that pushback. The pushback you get is usually from more and more traditional, old school kind of filmmakers that are saying, oh, you're trying to replace storytelling. And to me, it's like, I'm not replacing anything. I watch a movie a night. I love films.
They said the same thing when they went black and white to color.
To color, they
it's always,
or silence to talkies.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I said, I'm just augmenting it and trying to engage the youth and just trying to create social change for good. And then when people see that you've had a life of that. You know, I was a former prosecutor in my 20s. I mean, I've had a life's mission serving humanity. They realize that, you know what, this woman really cares about what she does. And so they jump in that headset and they sit in it for 45 minutes, which is quite an
That is an impressive accomplishment with today's attention spans. But I agree with Jake here. It's like, this could be the new, major thing. And I had actually never heard of a documentary or even a longer experience than just a video game or something with regard to VR. Because I've done a little bit of the Oculus thing where you're, you know, it's a game. But to your point, Victoria, you are immersed. Your brain, I mean, there was one thing I did where you were challenged to put it on and then step off the ledge of a building.
Yes.
Your brain doesn't want to do it. Your brain does not want. I'm like, no, I'm in a living room right now. But it is. I'm not surprised it's having it's a powerful medium, and you are certainly leveraging it. For those folks who want to check this thing out as soon as it's available wide, what's your message there? When can we check this thing out? Well, you can't check it out right now because we are on the campaign trail, let's call it. So you hopefully will be able to do that next year. The PC experience, playable on any laptop without the headset needed, is available on Steam. The VR version is available if you have, you know, the headset and the big super duper computer, and you can check it out there. Really quick before we go, you mentioned sort of being on the campaign trail, that you know, we're getting the Oscars to look in the BAFTAs. We actually do have quite a few Academy members in the city of Chicago. I was at a screening last night. If there's an Academy member watching who wants to see it before putting their vote in, is there a way for them to reach out? I mean, social media or anything? For me, it's about the film rising and the story continuing, and that's the motivation behind it. If you care about things that we just talked about today, they have an Academy portal they can go into and watch the film. They're happy to reach out to, you know, to us and invite them to the screening tomorrow. It's a private screening. It's hosted by Rahm Emanuel, which is an important person who does policy and action, which is... Is it over at Gene Siskel? It's at Gene Siskel, correct. So I welcome everyone who cares about it to please come. Thank you so much, Victoria Busas. Fascinating stuff. Can't wait to check out your project. And congratulations.
Please come to the screening, guys.
Wayne, you have to thank us in your speech.
I will, and I want you guys to come tomorrow.
Yes.
We'll talk to Victoria during the commercial break because we're talking all about subtitles when we come. Guys, this is a trend. Victoria, I don't know.
I use them.
Younger people?
I use them.
They're on board with
I'm not the younger people. I use them.
Yeah, I use them too. Yeah. But the youngins are doing it as well. And we are going to dive deep into why this is the phenomenon of subtitles when we come back.
So this is kind of funny. A new study reveals the reason why so many people turn on the subtitles when they're watching a movie or a TV show, and it's not just folks who can't hear, it's young people too. So maybe it's to keep their attention. That's kind of my guess. But we are joined by Marjorie Connolly. She's with the Associated Press, NORC, Center for Public Affairs Research, who conducted the study. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Where are you joining us from?
I'm actually in New York right now.
You are in New York.
Hey.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about first, why are we looking at subtitles? Is it because it's just well known that more people are using them? Why did this study come about?
Well, the Associated Press had, we do surveys for Associated Press on a regular basis, and in August, they asked us to ask some questions about subtitles, who uses them, and why do people use them. And we found that people are less likely to use them because they're hard of hearing. They're using them so that they can catch every word on a show or a movie that they're watching. Some people are watching them because they are having trouble understanding accents, or they're watching foreign films. But a lot of times it's not just older folks. It's more often it's younger people. It's either there because they're in places that are noisy, the background are noisy, and they want to hear everything. But a lot of times they just want to be able to hear things, where they're multitasking. So they want to be.
I certainly fall into that category where I want to
other things at the same time.
Yeah, exactly, because we're all multitasking. Now, in terms of who is not using subtitles, what did your findings indicate here? Who is not using them?
Older people are less likely to be using subtitles, whether it's because they're just not used to it. They're just not used to the technology of turning the subtitles on their TVs. They're not used to streaming as much. I don't know whether it's they just don't do it. They're just not used to reading at the bottom of their screen. They just haven't gotten used to doing that, where young people have gotten used to doing that on a more regular basis. I know that I got used to doing it regularly because I was watching a lot of BBC TV and I couldn't understand the accents as well, so I started watching it with subtitles.
Yeah.
And now I watch everything with subtitles.
I mean, with older people too, it's like, do your eyes go out first or your ears? So I almost wonder if it's a sight thing too, reading from a distance if you're watching a TV show.
It could be. It might be. It's hard to read and watch TV at the same time. It could be that.
Yeah.
You know, Marjorie, as I'm a avid pop culture, television, film watcher, and it makes me happy you said that one of the reasons that people might be using subtitles is to maybe better understand the plots. And Anthony brought up a great point of us watching Game of Thrones whenever it was on. And, you know, all the names sound familiar and the places. I'm a visual learner. It's easier for me to know what the place is if I can see it spelled out. Yeah. And it's just nice to hear that in the day and age where we're so distracted, you know, it's hard to focus on one screen because we're watching another, that people are doing something that's kind of helping them lock in a way.
And also, if you're having trouble understanding, you know, if something like Game of Thrones and you don't understand how the name and you can actually see it written out, it might be easier for you to understand it. Somebody had said that their husband, when we were writing the survey, their husband had trouble understanding. It wasn't so much BBC shows, it was The Sopranos.
Oh,
they had trouble understanding the accent in The Sopranos. So I think different people had trouble understanding different accents and probably different parts of the country. It doesn't even it's not just shows from other parts of the world, it's even shows from accents from different parts of the country.
But you know, it's funny, this is such an indirect issue of using subtitles. I have found, and this is such a like woe is me problem. Have you noticed that sometimes they'll like spoil something for you before
before the line is said.
My girlfriend and I will watch like a reality show, and if they're voting someone off, they'll, you know, it'll be a very dramatic pause, but the subtitle will have the name.
They got to get the timing.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm like, no, I read it. So that's the only downside I say is that sometimes by sheer accident, the subtitles will ruin a surprise for you.
We are speaking with Marjorie Connolly. She is a researcher with the AP, Newark Center for Public Affairs Research, about the new phenomenon of everybody using subtitles. Coming up, we're going to speak with Marjorie about whether subtitles can help or hurt our focus. More with Marjorie when we come back after this 60-second break.
Wait.
Welcome back. We were speaking with Marjorie Connolly. She's with the Associated Press, and their research just conducted a study into the widespread use of subtitles. If you back at home are a subtitles addict, bottom line here is you are not alone. It actually has nothing to do with the level of hearing or ability to hear. Everyone's just using
accent's a great point. A lot of times Guy Ritchie movies.
Yes.
You know, like
Brad Pitt
Brad Pitt in Snatch. Yeah, you like Dags?
Yeah, Dags.
Yeah,
Dags.
Caitlin has no idea what we're talking about.
Man. I can actually use them in person. I heard they're coming out. Marjorie, I heard they're coming out with contact lenses and like Google Glasses, which will give you subtitles if you're in a foreign country.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
Yes.
I remember I was in Boston one time, and
that's not a foreign country.
Boston, but their accents. Someone asked me, "What kind of sandwiches do you have?" Chicken palm. Chicken palm.
Yeah.
Like, what did you
pack the cat in the yard?
My friend was like, she's saying chicken
Or
palm.
even far down south, my mother-in-law, she said the plant fell off, or she said the plank. The plank.
Plank?
And I was like, what? And she was saying plant.
Plant,
yeah.
But it's just, I mean.
Subtitles, I absolutely love them. Marjorie, can you run us through, did you guys focus at all on the issue of focus here? Is the use of subtitles detracting from our focus on a movie because we're multitasking while using them? Or are they connecting us better with the plot lines of the stuff we are taking in?
Well, we didn't really specify too much of whether people are distracted or not. We did find out that people are saying that they're using them so that they can catch every word. So I think that so that they can be more focused on what's happening. More than half of them say that the reason they use them is that so they can catch every word of them. So I think that's not so much that they're distracted. And I think also, as I said earlier, that sometimes it's because they're watching in a noisy environment. So if other things are distracting them, then they can use the subtitles to be able to focus more on the show that they're watching. If the dog is barking or the kids are playing around, they can actually watch the show and catch up with what's happening on the show and not be distracted by what's happening around the house otherwise.
You know, Marjorie, I have found that nothing will divide a room quicker than some people wanting subtitles and some people not. You know, because for every person who wants them, there are people who are adamantly against them, that do not want the sub.
I'm in the want subtitle category, but I've dealt with that battle where it's almost like the thermostat war between a couple where they're like, no, those words across the bottom, there's just taking away from my
exactly right. I
wonder, I have a question, because you are all about the movies, and cinematics. If there's subtitles, sometimes I'm watching a show or a movie and I'm like, I really want to watch the picture. Like, I don't want my eyes to miss what's happening in the scene. Do you think that filmmakers are going to be upset with the uptick in the usage of these subtitles because it's taking away from their art?
It's a great question.
You know, I think that I think people get used to having the words at the bottom, and I think also that filmmakers maybe like design the screens so that they have space at the bottom, that the words can be there. I don't know. I get used to having them there at the bottom so that I can sort of read them and watch the screen at the same time. You know, when I first started watching foreign films, I found them to be distracting, that I couldn't watch the movie and sort of read at the same time. But now, since I've been using them so often, I actually can. And so I think maybe as people watch them, have them more often, that you get used to it. When you go to the gym, there are subtitles on the TVs. They're in the airports. There's subtitles on the TVs. So and my cat is walking in front of the camera.
That's the way we want to see. No, but
show the kitty. Show the kitty.
Yeah,
we have the kitty.
Sorry. She's not showing up. She's just annoying me. She's not showing up in front of you guys.
Marjorie, I feel vindicated. There's part of me that feels vindicated by this whole thing because I'm such an addict. Where can people go find the whole study if they want to kind of nerd out over this issue and maybe send, you know what I could see people doing with your article and your study is sending it to their friends who they're not on the same page with. You know what I mean? Where can folks find it?
We have all the results on apnorc.org. You can find the complete results there, and as well as the AP article is also on our website.
So great.
So
Marjorie
you can find
Connolly,
that easily there.
Thank you so much, Marjorie. Appreciate you joining us all the way from New York. Send our love to the kitty, please.
All the snacks.
You know, that does make me happy. Yes, there was a filmmaker recently who said something that really stuck with me, which is that every film is a foreign film to someone. And I know there are a lot of film fans out there who are a little bit more apprehensive to watch a film not in English because they don't want to read the subtitles. But I think to her point, if more people are getting used to just subtitles in English language things, maybe that will open their mind to foreign language films. Because, you know, you think of, I think Alfonso Cuarón won an Oscar a few years back, and he said, you have to keep in mind, for me growing up, Jaws was a foreign film. Jurassic Park was a foreign, like every film is a foreign film to someone.
When I went down to, I remember this, when I went down to Mexico, I did a study abroad there during college. And the kids in my host family, they were about my age, they said they all, instead of watching the overdubbed Spanish for like an American movie like Pulp Fiction, they vastly preferred the subtitles because you could, you're hearing the actors, you're a human, so you're absorbing it on so many levels. they had no problem with it, and that was it. Like those overdubs.
How did you watch Squid Game?
With the subtitles. Yeah,
I think I watched the dubs.
And how was it?
Actually, not bad.
It wasn't bad.
Not bad.
Because you have to have a good voice actor.
Yeah, well, I think with the dubs, I think on Netflix when you press play on Squid Game, I think it gives you dubs off the bat, and I think you've got to switch it
back.
And I think
I definitely prefer the native language and the subtitles for sure. I don't.
You're better than me, Anthony Ponce.
Yeah, I do. I'm a culture vault.
You guys are both better than me because I didn't watch Squid Games.
Oh, wow.
I know it.
Missing out.
All right, we're back with more Chicago Now right after this.
I'm so excited for this next segment.
Yes.
I'm telling you, just the segments in between the segments are fascinating.
The segments in between the segments. This is a live look outside.
Do we need to launch Chicago Now Unfiltered?
Yeah. I'm sure the bosses would love that.
Just running at all times. Okay, so it is 10:47, and if you didn't know, every year the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists come together to deliberate on the Doomsday Clock and later reveal where it stands. It takes into account all of the events from the past year. The closer we are to midnight, the closer we are to doomsday. And we're going to explain this, okay, because I just learned about this for the first time before this show started, the time thing. We are joined by Rachel Bronson. She's from the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists here in Chicago. Okay, so let's break down.
You know it's serious.
Oh, man.
Puts the
Roll
cards
the sleeves
down.
up.
Okay, let's start at the beginning, and I'm sure you have a better way of explaining the Doomsday Clock than anybody else that's trying to explain it to me, to the folks at home. So what is this Doomsday Clock?
Yeah, so the Doomsday Clock is a metaphor, and it started as an image. It was the first cover of our first magazine back in 1947, and it was designed by a landscape artist who was married to a Manhattan Project scientist. Why does that matter? Because the bulletin and the clock is about the advancement of science and how well we're managing its risks. So it came out of the nuclear era by Manhattan Project scientists here in Chicago who were worried about this technology they had just created and its ability to destroy life on Earth as we know it. It's that
Would this have been like post-Oppenheimer kind of
Oppenheimer era? Was our first chair of our board of
sponsors.
So it was like Einstein was a supporter, but all of those Manhattan Project scientists that you saw in the movie, they were our founders.
Okay, can we get some context here? All right. What is the furthest away from midnight it's been over the years and the closest? I'm guessing the Cuban Missile Crisis. Where was the Doomsday Clock during that?
That is a great question, and it wasn't the closest then. And that is always the question. So the furthest away, so it started at 7 minutes to midnight, which is, it was the artist who understood the science from her husband and his colleagues, put it at 7 because it suggested the urgency that they believed and the ability to turn it back, right? So tick, tick, tick. If we don't do anything,
and midnight
we're destroy ourselves.
What? Midnight being
the apocalypse, the destruction, right? And so the furthest away is 17 minutes to midnight. It's gone as far back
What year
as
was that?
That was right after the end of the Cold War.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So 1991.
Yeah,
It moved that far back. The closest it is now, which is at 89 seconds to midnight.
It's closer now than it was during the Cuban Missile Crisis, when we literally had nukes pointed at the U.S.
Does AI have anything to do with this?
It does, climate change. So what we look at, and I'll come back to that, but what we look at is science's advancement and our ability to destroy our planet and humanity.
So it's not just nukes.
So when it was founded, it was just nukes, because that was the only technology.
Sure.
But they understood at the time, and they talked about science's advancement and Pandora's box of modern science. They understood that science was moving fast and it would continue to do so. And so we added climate change, probably the most controversial decision of the board. We added climate change in 2009, I think it was, because you could no longer say that climate wasn't an existential threat and that humanity hadn't created this, right? So we added that, and then as we're talking about science advancement, we look at artificial intelligence, biotech, and our ability to govern it. It's not just the technologies, but our ability to govern it.
Yes.
So back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is the one that comes up, which I would say was a bit of a miss maybe by our organization. But at the time, we produced a magazine, and our guest editor at the time, was writing like he didn't even know if his plane would land to submit the article to say like how worried he was about the Cuban Missile Crisis. By the time the board met, when everything was a little slower to set the time, there was a raft of arms control agreements in place that we were so terrified by the Cuban Missile Crisis that the US and the Soviets put in place a whole bunch of mechanisms to make us safer. So when we look at the end of the year, when that clock gets set, it actually goes away from midnight.
Interesting.
Which is insane in the sense of what you're saying. But it was, by the time they could get past the crisis and meet to set the time, we as a society were so alarmed that we had put things in place to keep us safer. So it's possible.
What do you think it would have been had they been able to set it
I think they would have easily gone back. So at the time, the worst it had ever been was 2 minutes, and I can't imagine they wouldn't have gone to 1 at
Wow. And right now, we're in the 89 to 90 second range. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back with Rachel, we're going to kind of dive into why we are so close to midnight on this metaphorical scale here. We're back in 60 seconds.
Stream.
Okay, if you were watching the segment before we went to commercial, I just kind of want to elaborate again, because I'm not sure that everybody at home, if they don't know what the Doomsday Clock is understanding, because it took me a long time to get this morning. So what we're talking about is time, and it's a metaphorical time away from midnight, which is the end of the world, basically, doomsday, midnight. So the more time we have away from midnight, or from that happening, the safer we are. So 89 seconds is not like, because I kept asking, like I couldn't wrap my brain around 89 seconds from what? Like when does it start? Like there's no, the time does not mean actual time. It's a way to show how you know in control we are of these things that could take us out. All right, now
so
go ahead.
89 seconds. Let's round up to a minute and a half.
Sure.
Okay, we're going to round up to a minute and a half. Why are we at 89 seconds right now?
Yeah, so we're at 89 seconds to midnight, and we've been steadily moving closer to midnight. Because technology is moving so fast, and politically we are shredding all the rules of the road to manage them internationally. So the challenges are becoming more international, and yet we're shredding any agreements that we have. So if you think in the nuclear realm, we hear about the Chinese kind of building up. We know that there's more countries that have nuclear weapons, but we, the United States, are stepping away from arms control agreements. And so there's only one arms control agreement now between the US and the Russians, and that's set to expire. So we're not building more control over them, we're actually walking away from them. And we're saying that the Russians are cheating, and they're saying that we're cheating, and we're both walking away from it. So we're not building any rules of the road. And that's true on climate change. We've got, you know, there's a big climate change conference going on right now. The United States isn't even there. And then on AI, we just heard the Saudis were in town. We heard all of this about AI. There's no global alliance for artificial intelligence, as the administration says they would like to see. There's very little international cooperation. And without that kind of governance, all these incredible technologies that are going to bring so much positive, it's the Wild West. And so that's what this organization pays attention to. Our experts are experts in their field: nuclear weapons, climate change, new disruptive technologies. They follow it every day. They watch all the positives it can bring, but they're very concerned and focused on how do we govern them.
Okay. How often, so the safeguard, with these safeguards kind of not in place here, that great explanation about why we are where we are, 89 seconds. How often does the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists get together to tweak this thing? Is it like interest rates where, you know, every so often, every quarter or so, it's adjusted? Is it yearly? When could we expect change on this?
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly why I'm here talking about it today, because the board comes to Chicago every November, and they sit in a set of meetings to set the time of the clock, and they announce it in January. So why that gap? Because we announce it in January, so to say, here's where we are, and we have the whole year to turn it back, hopefully. We always reserve the right to change it during the year, and there's a lot of meetings that come together, things happen, that, like the Russians invade Ukraine, is this a time to move the clock? But we really try to keep it to once a year, because things change so quickly, so often, and we want time to reflect on what they mean. So they've met, they already met this year, and they'll be announcing in mid to late January.
So we'll see if it's 89.
When are you going to freak out? Is it maybe 2 seconds away? Then you're going to be like, all right, it's time to...
I mean, this is a really dangerous time. So to be clear, like the board at 89 seconds is very worried and about the state of technology and our inability to control it. And so 89 seconds is very dangerous. I think the good news is back to the Cuban Missile Crisis. We have been in dangerous situations, and we have built the rules and the mechanisms and the agreements to keep us safe. It is absolutely possible to do that. It's just we're not hearing a lot about it. In fact, we're seeing trends in the opposite direction. So for the board, they are pretty worried.
Rachel, fascinating stuff. We'll be pins and needles till January. All right. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us. Just super fast. What a show.
We were just saying we could do, we could do the whole hour.
Oh my God. All right. We're coming up on 11 a.m. We're back with another hour of Chicago Now after this.
Black Friday.
Go ahead, Gabby, you got it.
11 o'clock hour of Chicago Now.
Yes, it is a beautiful day outside. Overall, I would say it's not too shabby. You see a lot of people out there at the bean, as always. That is not a shocker by any stretch. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's snowing, raining, what have you, but it is a hazy day, cloudy day. over Chicagoland, but it doesn't matter. We are fast forwarding right to the weekend. It is Thursday. Friday Eve is what I call it. And you know what? I'm happy to be here because it is Friday Eve.
Yep, the sun is shining in the studio right now because we have a full show for you guys. Yeah, we'll keep you on your toes.
Yes, we have. This is about teens, which is always interesting. We know they are not easy, but there are ways to help change their mindset. We're talking to an expert about how to make teens grateful, make sure that they keep a grateful mindset. We're also getting a closer look at the Kohl Children's Museum's holiday lights display for this year. But first, we got to talk to this amazing author.
Yes, thank you so much, Betsy Ford, for coming in. So a new book is encouraging readers to manifest their business of their dreams while looking within. So we're talking with you, Betsy. Thank you so much for joining us. And then, of course, your adorable little son here, Sebi. Thank you both for coming in, and you're matching your book cover. Built on Purpose is what it's called. Explain to the viewers what all is in this book.
Yes, we'd love to. Sebi, did you want to introduce the book?
This is my mommy, and she made Built on Purpose.
I love that.
Very good.
Thank you, Sebi.
I dedicate the book to my 3 children.
Oh, awesome.
And I love what you just mentioned about teenagers' mental health. And, you know, when I looked in the market, over 90% of the next generations want to be creators or entrepreneurs.
True.
But what does that actually look like? What does that mean? I've built companies for over 2 decades into multi-million-dollar businesses and then a nonprofit. And I did this through the through line of my values and finding my purpose, which I call a deep inner why. And that's what I take you through in my book, Built on Purpose.
I love that. Betsy, tell us, what are some of your favorite lessons? You know, like you mentioned, a lot of people want to enter entrepreneurship. Maybe they've never been in that space before. They don't really know where to start. Maybe they have this idea, this concept in their mind. What are some of the lessons in the book for people to take away?
Yeah, so chapter 2, your deep inner why, definitely going back to the core of your values and what you value in life. So it's not just saying, oh, I value these 5 values that I've chosen from the exercise. It's actually embodying those. So I take the reader through about 18 different processes. It begins with anchoring, so feeling those values within yourself. I base them off the 7 grandfather teachings of my tribe, the Anishinaabe. I'm Turtle Mountain Chippewa, and so it's things like love, humility, bravery, and then I include about 40 other values within this exercise where the reader can go through and identify what 5 are resonating with the most at this point in time, and then come into those moments where they felt that value of calm or maybe bravery, right, throughout their life and truly embodied it for themselves.
Go ahead.
Well,
I'm
we talk about manifest, and I want to look into it too. We talk about manifesting. I feel like people underestimate manifesting. Do you feel the same way?
Oh, yes.
Do you really take people through how important it is in the book?
Yes, I do. So just like, so I'll tell you, when I first had the idea for the book, I was with my former boss, the founder of Calm, the meditation app, and I said to him, what you did about 15 years ago by bringing meditation to the masses and making it more accessible and less woo, I want to do for manifestation, because I believe we all have a creator spirit in us, just willing and waiting to be unleashed, and that we're right on the cusp of seeing that within society. And it's actually been this unlock with the neuroscience and the research papers that have come out showing that you truly can rewire your brain to have an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And this is really where ideas are born, right? So I try to take the founder or the builder, as they read the book, into that mindset of abundance.
I'm looking at chapter 1, my deep inner why. Right away, you get personal.
Yeah.
You talk about your life. You talk about some of the ups, some of the downs. One line that I'm reading right now, you talk about your family, alcoholism, drug abuse. Why did you feel the need to get deeply personal about your own life before even getting into, you know, the business aspect of it?
I think you're talking about, you know, my family on the reservation, right? So we're in North Dakota, Turtle Mountain, Chippewa, on the Canadian border, and I think about how, you know, I've now dedicated this next chapter in my life to giving back to my community. I've actually just founded my venture capital fund, where a portion of our carry goes directly back to Native tribes. We're the first Native woman-led fund in the nation, and this was on the this was after I become the first Native American to ever raise a Series A round of funding for my previous company, Tiny Organics. But I built each one of these companies with the through line of knowing that I am actually the answer to my ancestors' prayers and having that responsibility that I'm I'm carrying with me, but building for the next 7 generations to try to give others these opportunities that I had to find my way, right? So when I talk about my deep inner why, I actually got my start as an entrepreneur with a $50K grant. And then I went on to raise tens of millions of dollars, eventually being able to found my nonprofit Natives Rising, which is the largest community of Native technologists and founders. Our members represent over 100 tribes nationwide, and I'm able to now give back those life-changing lessons that I had learned through my journey and use them for the good of Indian country. So I think, you know, talking about my path up front, it is a bit of a memoir of sorts, right? Building these 2 companies, the first Fitbit for dogs for my first dog. Sebastian was the inspiration for Tiny Organics, actually, that I grew to over 13 million in revenue in the first 24 months. Yeah. And then I, now with my venture capital fund, I've been able to invest over the past 6-7 years into underrepresented and female founders. And actually right here in Chicago with Long Jump Ventures, we're the most active pre-seed investors here in the city.
So it sounds like this book would be, you know, would have been a great roadmap for yourself when you're starting out. You know, you probably didn't have anything like this. I mean, have people come to you and said, hey, you know what, your book has helped me so much. Now I'm taking that next step.
Yes, so that's been so thrilling that people have said, I know, I believe now that I can bring my idea to fruition, that I can build it, right, that I can bring it to market. And that has been, yeah, one of the greatest gifts. And the also throughout the book, I actually record the Audible myself here in downtown Chicago. If you do download it, there's quite a few meditations in there as well. So it really does feel like you're gaining so much, not just inspiration to build, but actually for life, right? To build sustained success, which I believe is a calm nervous system.
You're also a good mom, I can tell, because Sebastian is the most well-behaved child that we've ever had on a live show. We do need to take a quick break. We want to talk to you a little bit more. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Abby.
It's that.
All right, you see a bright orange book on the bookshelf. You want to grab it. It's called Built on Purpose with Betsy Ford. Betsy joins us here live on Chicago Now. I want to hear about your Shark Tank experience because Tia and I are both saying, hey, you look familiar.
Yeah.
We're both fans of the show.
Yeah. Well, we did that season walk into the tank and it panned out and it showed my company Tiny Organics as we were first beginning to build. But I'll tell you, it was actually during the pandemic when I had to drive from Chicago to Vegas where they quarantined us for over 2 weeks. I couldn't see anyone before walking into the tank. You were able to remove your mask like right before you walk in. As my COO and I walk into the tank, I realized that these samples are frozen of my fresh baby food, and it becomes like this moment of panic, right? And I'm just like forgetting my lines, and then in that moment I had to step back and just take box breaths, right, and focus on my breathing to again like calm the nervous system. And then I was able to actually get the deal that I wanted with the shark that was vying for it, and it was kind of going back and forth and super exciting to the point where they were actually jumping up and down on their chair when they got the deal. So it was really thrilling. We came off, it was a fanfare, right? It never aired. So this happens with over half the episodes where they bring you out there, do all these things,
so
and
we
it
never
never
saw
airs.
you.
No, so when we walked into the tank, they did show us when we walked into the tank on that season premiere, but then it didn't air. And so there's so many lessons, right? Because I believe that life is actually you're standing on a mountain of failures. That wasn't really a failure because in so many ways we kept going, and that's when we made over 13 million in revenue, right? Off direct sales alone in the first 24 months for that company without Shark Tank, right? We were able to accomplish this. And I think it's all around the reframe and your mindset, and that's what I weave in throughout my book, which as of today is a USA Today bestseller.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Well, it's funny because, I mean, it's hard to miss, right? It's a bright orange cover, like I said. I know I've seen it on some bookshelves. Wow.
I
Exactly.
was going to say, because in that particular trailer that they showed for Shark Tank, I do remember one of the moments was one of the sharks in the chair jumping.
Yes.
I think they showed that over and over and over.
Exactly, like this exciting moment, and they didn't actually show the real, the episode. And luckily I had thought to do a voice memo for Sebi, who was just on, so I was able to at least remember everything in that moment, right? Like it had happened, because I won't see the footage now.
I want to ask you this because I know you're 40 under 40 for Crane, so congratulations to that. But you did talk about the power of manifestation, and I think that's something that we don't talk about enough now. You know, it's great to go ahead and be a successful business owner, but let's just talk about for everyday people that are trying to manifest maybe something higher than where they are.
A promotion.
Yeah, where do you say they start? Is it seeing yourself there before you're ever there?
Exactly. So it's about shifting your mindset through these different practices I teach in the book. It's actually called neurolinguistics programming. So it really is based on science, how you can create these new neurons. One of them is the I am method, speaking exactly what you believe as if it was already realized, right? So I am a best-selling author, right? I never could have fathomed that. I had said that to myself 2 or 3 years ago, you know, as I was starting to write this book. I have so many different examples from 20 different founders who manifested their dreams in this way, because ultimately I believe founders are the ultimate manifestors, right? That we create something out of nothing, that, you know, you believe it enough, it becomes real. And that's not just to say that we're going to visualize and then sit back and think it's going to happen. I have a method called Come What May, M-A-E. So it's a manifesting mindset, affirming actions, and energetic ethos. So how are you actually embodying these things? That's the values work that I go through in terms of it being purpose-driven within the book. And, you know, it is a belief, but that's actually a mindset that will carry you and get you there. I'm absolutely living proof of that. And so some people call it visualization, some people call it manifesting. We're all talking about the same thing. And it's really being able to build from that creator spirit that we talked about earlier.
You know, I almost think that people feel like manifesting is kind of overwhelming, right? They're like, well, how do we manifest? You know, it is as simple as maybe just sitting back. Maybe you're in the car driving somewhere. You know, you're paying attention to the road, of course, but you're also maybe saying those words of intention to yourself. It could be that easy.
Yes, it really is. So I talk about a lot of these practices where you actually say 3 things that you're grateful for, that as if they've already happened, right? So this is another great one, where even just living in a state of gratitude, you attract everything that you want towards yourself by being in that energy and that field of your values, right? And things that you're really focused on in life. Because where our attention goes, energy flows, right? So it's like that energy is what actually makes everything, you can let it go because it can come to you when this happens. And I think until you've experienced it, it's so difficult to kind of, describe, and as I try to do in a very practical way within the book. But it's like, if this worked, why wouldn't you try, right? If you could really, manifest your wildest dreams. And that's what I feel I've been able and so grateful to do in my life, and I want to share that gift with others.
You mentioned the word energy. Your energy is very electric. Just sitting here.
Oh,
and I do feel like, you know, I've always wanted to ask people that are like wildly successful, what do they do different, right? Because there is a difference in how people live. What do you do when you wake up in the morning? Like, what are some of the first things that you must do before you get active in the morning?
Yes, I think it's pretty tricky with 3 children under 7.
That's why I'm asking.
So yeah, so I will say, if I can't get my 10 minutes of calm in the morning, which I do try to do, even just 2 minutes of mindful breathing, because the breath is what can anchor you, right, into feeling abundance. And the other thing that I do is the anchoring exercise, the very first thing I teach in the book, which is to think of a time of whatever feeling I'm hoping to embody. And for instance, today, right, joy or excitement, right, and those sorts of things. I can think of a time in my past when I've embodied that feeling in great detail. So I'll really ponder on, you know, what time of year was it, the temperature, if this experience had a color, what would it be, right? And then the key is that you anchor with your forefinger and thumb at that moment when you're kind of at that peak feeling within yourself. And then you can do that again and again throughout your days, and you come back to that feeling. It really is just this incredible reset in terms of your frame of mind that can allow you to, kind of step into the unknown, or like to that abundance. And I do that on a daily.
Wow.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of people's minds are holding them back.
It really is, yeah. I think you made it clear. Okay, you are now a bestseller. What's next for you? Because there has to be something down the line. There's probably a couple irons in the fire there.
I'm hoping that I make a business or two with my kids down the line, but I did just launch my venture capital firm the day my daughter was born 1 year ago, almost to the day, Velveteen Ventures. So I named that fund after the little plush rabbit that my grandmother had given me as a child, that I believed that if I loved him enough, he'd be real, right? But that's what founders wake up and do every day. We pour enough love, care, attention into something, it can be real. And I wanted to let them know I understand and I also believe. And I'm working alongside them. So yeah, the Velveteen Ventures is investing right here in Chicago into seed to Series A founders that are focused on children and the planet for the next 7 generations.
What kind of things are you investing in?
So a lot of pediatric companies that are focused on like AI healthcare. That was one of our first deals we did. Climate companies as well. My partner Carla Brolier, who I mentioned of the Patagonia Home Planet Fund, most recently she had joined me, so that's another deal. We actually just did a deal this last week into a Chicago-based company called Kidsy. It's the Amazon of re-commerce for children's items. The founder Shrazy is based here, and yeah, so it's more around the focus on children as well.
I love that. You're doing a lot of great things.
Thank you.
Yeah, and a mom of 3. I don't know how you're doing it. When do you sleep?
Yeah, well, the sleep is not yet. I'm hoping to catch up on that someday.
This weekend. Okay, if people want to find out more about you, you know, your future goals, your book, of course, where can they find you online?
Well, you can find the book anywhere books are sold, but Betsy4.com is my website where you can get in touch with me directly or on social, right? Betsy4 or LinkedIn as well.
I got one final question for you before we let you go.
Yeah.
Because just looking at the intro of your book, it did sound like, you know, it wasn't like you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, that you literally had to work for it. If you could give people out there some advice, maybe somebody that's watching right now, maybe they had similar circumstances growing up, what would you say that they can do, or some advice along the way to pick yourself up, to keep trying every single day?
Yes. So I deeply believe and was raised to know that we all have a gift to offer the world. And I think when you can frame every interaction through the lens of what is the gift that I am showing up with to give? Not necessarily what do I need out of this situation, what do I want, right? But what is my gift? When you approach a situation in that spirit of the give, you find that abundance just flows back to you tenfold, right? So that's what's gotten me here today. And I think when you've put it into practice, that's when you can really kind of see it just light up your life, right? Where we all have those gifts within us, and just they're ready and willing. And it's about us leaning in and approaching it from the offering.
I love that. You have a light about you.
You know what?
Really do. Not because of the orange.
As soon as she walked in the door, I knew that she was special. Thank you so much. And Sebi as well. He did a great job being the model and introducing you. Okay, you can definitely find Built on Purpose anywhere books are sold, as Betsy said. Thank you again for joining us. Next, we're going to be talking to Block Club Chicago. We'll be back after this short break.
Chicago now, 11:20 on this Thursday. I'm a little upset with this person, but it's okay. I'm gonna bring him into the show anyway. We are talking to Block Club's John Hansen.
Look, we have a bone to pick.
Mad at you, right?
Look, he's shaking his head.
Yeah, because I'm not in the studio.
What's the deal? What's the excuse today?
Oh, what could I come up with?
Could you imagine, John, if last time we brought in some pizza, right? We had some pizza to entice you. This time we just bring out like a whole rack of ribs or something like that. And then we really rub it in. But unfortunately,
Honestly,
we don't have any food.
If you bring in the world's largest sub sandwich with roast beef on it, that's going to get me there. Okay. I'd be there before the segment ended. Trust me.
Okay, deal.
Okay. All right. Well, we got
to buy my 8-month-old son. Can I just do that instead?
Yes.
Like, it's
that would be adorable.
Bring him on over.
Absolutely. Wow, 8 months. Time is really flying. Okay, we got to talk about something really important in the community, and this is an article that you guys have worked on. Calls to immigration agents citing hotline. It drops to pre-escalation levels. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously we know that Greg Bovino and the head of Border Patrol has left the city. They have said, the Department of Homeland Security, of course, that operations will continue, and no doubt they will, as immigration enforcement was happening before Operation Midway Blitz. But we were just kind of wondering, like, what is happening now on the streets, right? We have reporters trying to check out. It's hard to gauge sometimes, is activity continuing? Because ICE has gotten really good at quickly moving into a neighborhood, doing their operations and trying to leave. Of course, we've talked endlessly about people videotaping this stuff as we see all this footage. So have they really left, right? Or is activity down? And basically the best resource we've found is calls to the Illinois Coalition of Immigration and Refugee Rights Hotline, which they have reported calls of sightings have gone down. And we feel like that's the best barometer to really show that, yes, in fact, while there are still going to be operations ongoing in Chicago, they're kind of back to pre-September, where you'd see them in spotty places, more targeted, versus the wide sweeping effort we saw for basically 2 months in Chicago, which left a lot of neighborhoods like frozen, guys. Like, I mean, we had a lot of street vendors not coming out. We've seen more street vendors now on the street with apprehension still. But some of our reporters have talked to families that have not left their homes in 2 months, that literally have been relying on other people to do their groceries. They've missed doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, just like the everyday things of life. School for a lot of kids, attendance was down, and we're starting to see some normalization. It doesn't mean there's not that fear and apprehension that's still there, but it's just a little dampened, I guess you could say.
You know, let's talk about numbers, because I think we were talking about a story earlier on Good Day Chicago about how many people might be in the ICE facility. I think there was reports of maybe it just being a handful now, and then there being
right. And so that's the thing, is like the federal judicial system has kind of said, hey, you got to let go of a lot of these people, right? These low and medium risk folks that you've identified that don't pose an immediate risk to security, right? There's a universal agreement about some of the worst criminals that have been rounded up by ICE. I shouldn't say universal, I should say near universal agreement, that some of the worst criminals that have been rounded up by ICE should be, right? And should be go through deportation hearings. But for some of these folks that have maybe been rounded up and the excuse has been maybe they had a minor traffic violation, right? Does that person need to wait but while the detention and while the deportation hearings go? And federal judges across the United States have said, no, you need to release these folks. Perhaps in advance of that, or perhaps in moving people to other states, as we've seen before. The Broadview facility now has, they say, 4 people in it. And at one point it was hundreds, right? I mean, there's been so many stories about how the situation, and this was all in open court, all public information about how many people were stuffed into a facility that was not designed to keep people longer than 12 hours, let alone 12 weeks. So they say there's only 4 people left in the facility, and that's what the Department of Homeland Security says. Obviously, we'll stay on it, but I think a lot of people who thought that when judges said, hey, you need to release these people, that maybe there'd be like this mass exodus out of the building. There's not going to be like that visual walk to freedom. A lot of folks have been released maybe a little more quietly, maybe shuffled to other places, and the release has to happen in other states. So it's a confusing, confounding situation that is changing every minute, it seems.
Yeah, it will be interesting, you know, a few years from now to see what we didn't know that will come out in the public, because I'm sure maybe less than that time we'll find out a little bit more. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Can I just make one point? I think you bring up a great point. And I think a lot of this, you know, without nonprofit newsrooms, your newsroom, all sorts of news operations shining as much lights on it as possible, the videos that people have been taking when detentions are happening has really helped in that regard. But the judicial branch, you know, for all of its faults and for all of its slow movement at times, in Chicago and the 7th District, even though rulings have kind of gone on both sides of the fence of this, they have really been on it, right? They've had open court hearings about what's happening in the Broadview ICE facility. Judge Ellis has had injunctions issued, and then the 7th Circuit repealed them, right? That's part of how that goes. But I will give credit to journalists in the city, citizens for taking a lot of video, and just like kind of unrelenting pressure from all sides to at least know what's going on. You may agree with everything that's going on, but I think we all have the right to know a little more about what's going on, and it's been a non-transparent situation that we've kind of had to all force our way in to figure out.
Very true, and in some cases, some of what was put out to the media wasn't true. And I say that in the case of Miramar Martinez, who was shot by the ICE agent. What was put out initially about what happened that day, we later find out was not completely the truth. And in fact, it sounds like those charges today may be completely dropped. So that's a case that we are following closely, and I'm sure you guys at Block Club are following as well.
For sure, we are. Yeah, these changes happen all the time. And like, look, every administration bends, I shouldn't say it like that, but journalists, we are used to asking follow-up questions and really digging into answers. And yes, truth and fiction can kind of be a blurry line sometimes, but there have definitely been cases where what has been told to us has simply been false. I mean, we had the Secretary of Homeland Security going to Gary, Indiana to give a speech saying that no U.S. citizens have been detained, and Mac Liederman came on this very program and outlined to you guys and your audience the many ways in which that is not true. It's demonstrably false. So I think it's important to call out when it is a lie. I think it's important to recognize when there's more of a gray area, and also recognize that even despite all this, a lot of people are still very much in favor of what the Trump administration is doing. I mean, this is a hard area to navigate for all of us that have to talk about this, recognizing there's a lot of viewpoints on this, and we're just trying to get the facts.
Yeah.
Well, John, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to have to take just a really quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to Chicago Now. We are talking to John Hanson over at Block Club Chicago. We were just talking about, you know, being transparent, having the media there to tell the story. You know what's a really interesting fine line, Mr. Hanson, is when I think about, you know, reporting all of these years, it's not often that we come out and say it was a lie. You know, that's a really hard place, I think, for journalism to be at, where we come out and usually we have to say allegedly, but in some cases, it's pretty obvious that things are lies, which is always a very interesting area. I also want to talk to you about this because this was breaking news. I think it was in our 4 o'clock yesterday about this federal appellate court pausing a judge's order restricting the use of tear gas, pepper shots, tackling, and other crowd control tactics by immigration authorities. What ultimately does this mean? Because as of right now, we know there's no activity, major activity at least we've seen, on the ground here in Chicago still.
Yeah, this is that case, and this is wound back and forth between Judge Ellis and the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, the essential appeals that's over her in our Northern District of Illinois. But it's been this back and forth of how much authority, this is ultimately what it comes down to, how much authority does a federal judge, a district judge, have to basically rein in what the executive branch wants to do with what they say is legal enforcement of the law. This is a real sticky area for the court system. And Judge Ellis initially said, you guys remember, Greg Bovino, I want you in court every day with an update on what's happening. The Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals said, no, you can't do that. These are busy people. You can't bring them into court every single day and demand that they give you answers. Okay. In a ruling also, she said, and she was trying to be limited because she did say, look, there are ever-changing situations where, of course, ICE agents are doing difficult jobs and often quickly changing situations. Who are we to say what could become violent or dangerous in a moment's time? But she was essentially saying, unless it's one of those extreme cases, can't use the tear gas, can't use the pepper balls, especially against journalists. That case has now been basically ruled by the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, that injunction, that temporary restraining order. They've said that's too broad. She doesn't have the power or authority to essentially tell the president of the United States what he and what his people can do in everyday enforcement. Now, the Seventh Circuit did leave open maybe a more limited injunction, right? They're just saying maybe the judge can refine this a little bit, can narrowly tailor this a little bit more. And this is a broader conversation that we've been seeing playing out in the judiciary versus the executive branch all year since the Trump 2.0 took over. How much power does the executive branch have, and how much power do judges have to limit that? And this has played out whether we're talking about ICE, whether we're talking about labor law. I mean, it's really been a broad-reaching redefinition of the executive branch and the power and authority they have, and this kind of tug and pull between the judges. So this is obviously the Chicago case that we're facing on, but this has been adjudicated out in Los Angeles, right? Discussions on whether ICE agents can profile based on skin color or by a location where immigrants tend to go for work, right? And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. So I think the interesting part is this tug and pull, and there's no perfect answer for this. But as of right now, essentially the Seventh Circuit says, hey, Judge Ellis, can you refine this? But as you brought up, most of the activity as of now has stopped. So it would be much more of a forward-looking thing if the agents were to come back and start doing all this activity again.
You know, John, I know that you hit on it a little bit in that first response, or, you know, while we're talking about that first story, but tomorrow, Friday, we're looking forward to 400 arrested by ICE in Chicago to be released. Tell us about that story. You know, there's also some that might stay in custody because they're remaining, you know, risks, as they say.
Yeah, this was U.S. District Judge Jeffrey Cummings, and he ordered the release essentially of everyone on a $1,500 bond unless they were deemed a safety risk by ICE or had a prior removal order before all this went down. So they essentially asked the Department of Homeland Security to kind of triage this list of people who are currently detained, right? Like, is it a legitimate gang member who is maybe part of a Venezuelan gang, as we've seen as one of the reasons for locking or arresting people in the South Shore community after a targeted raid on an apartment? Is it someone that's been, you know, convicted of a violent crime in their past, right? Some of the cases that I think most people would nod along and say, yeah, they don't belong here in the streets of Chicago. So they had to triage it. And essentially what the federal government is saying here is anyone in that low level, like minor traffic offenses, as that was the excuse for keeping them locked up, the federal judge is saying, no, those people have to be released. They have to be released by Friday. I will know that's tomorrow, as you said, of course. We've seen things kind of get close, and then the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, or in other cities, a higher level court will step in and perhaps change things. So we'll have to wait and see. I think this has been appealed. The judge has denied a request, and we'll have to wait and see where this goes. But what they've essentially sided on, these judges, has said, look, if you keep someone detained a super long time and they really shouldn't be, that does irreparable harm to them and their family. They can't get that time back, and they can't do that. Versus the government, if let's say they release someone that maybe shouldn't be, you just eventually have to prove or get a warrant and go get them back. There's no irreparable harm by releasing it. In simplest terms, they're aiding on the side of they should be out versus they should be in. I'm going on these really long explanations, guys. Please let me know if I'm going a little too long or too dense, because I'm not a lawyer. This is just from all the people we've talked about on how this works.
I mean, just on a state level, the Safety Act, right, wouldn't hold someone for some of the minor things that even the federal government, at least what they're saying, may be held. So I kind of understand what you're saying on a, you know, a bigger level. John Hanson, yeah, on a broader level. John Hanson, it is always a pleasure Promise next time that you will be here in studio with us.
I will not promise that, but I will promise we're going to do some fun stories next week too.
Yeah, let's
right?
do it.
Or
Yeah.
the next time I'm on.
Please, we need something.
Let's lighten it up. We need it. I mean, this is important stuff. I'm glad we're diving into it.
Very important.
But my gosh, I need to find a new restaurant open. I need to find something to give you guys that we can chew on, okay?
I know. It's not feeling like the holidays lately.
No kidding.
With some of the news that
But John, we do appreciate you, and you know what? You never talk too much because it's all information and pieces of information that, you know, we're all, I mean, it's all part of us. We're all in Chicagoland.
Tell my spouse that. He doesn't agree. So, about the talking too much. But that's for another day. Okay. I'll let you guys go. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, John Hanson.
You just got yourself in trouble. All right. Next, we are going to talk to the teen translator. Maybe you have a teen. You haven't been able to get your message across. We have someone that can hopefully get it done. We'll be right back.
Corporate.
Welcome back to Chicago Now. We are talking with a teen translator, which is an interesting title. Were you a difficult teenager?
No, I was too easy as a teenager.
There's someone in the room that definitely knows that I was a troubled teenager, just with my attitude, right, Mom? She's nodding her head, yes.
No, and I hope that I'm not raising a troublesome
Well,
teen.
you know what? That's why we're bringing in Dr. Cam Caswell. So maybe if you do have a troubled teen at home, or maybe one that's good at communicating, you know, you can learn something either way. Sure. The teen translator, thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us.
I am thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's talk about what are some common hurdles parents are facing when they're trying to talk to their teens. It can get complicated.
Oh, it can get very complicated. I think the biggest hurdle that I see a lot of parents have is miscommunication. So we're expecting our teens to respond to us a certain way. They don't respond to us the way we want them to or we expect them to. We kind of read into what that response means to us, right? It can trigger us for different reasons. It can make us feel kind of rejected or question our authority. And so we get a little flustered by that, or we feel some kind of way, and we react that way. And most of the time, and I talk to thousands of teens, most of the time, what their intention is, even with an eye roll, is not what we're taking it as. But we react that way. And then our teens react back to us. And all of a sudden we create this cycle of misunderstanding and conflict that didn't even need to be there in the first place.
You know, one thing I struggle with raising kids is, you know, when I was growing up, I had a really hard life. My kids will never know that life. They don't. You know, they have no idea what it's like to grow up in the inner city of Chicago, completely different worlds. And so I struggle with making sure they understand gratitude. And I feel like oftentimes they aren't very gracious in a lot of different ways. How do you have that balance with your kids where, you know, you're not sending them back to the neighborhood where you grew up, but you make sure that they still have some element of gratitude as they grow up?
This is a huge question and something a lot of parents struggle with. And the very thing that you just brought up is one of the reasons. Because we have context of our life. We have a perspective of, and we look at their lives and we're thinking, oh my gosh, they have it so much easier than we did and so much better. And that gives us a little kind of twinge of resentment, sort of, because we're looking at them going, you're not grateful for all that you have. But what we have to understand is that our teens don't have the perspective we have. Their perspective is what they've always had. Their perspective is what everyone else has. And during the teen years, fairness is a very big piece of concern, right? Comparison is huge. So they're looking at what everyone else has, and they're thinking, well, there's a lot that I don't have, right? So we have to first understand that their perspective of what they've got versus our perspective is very different. One of the ways I like to tweak that in our own mindset is going, I am so lucky to be able to give my child a life that I wasn't able to have, rather than they should be grateful for the life that I give them, right? The other thing is to remember that gratitude is from perspective, and they're young. They don't have a lot of perspective yet. It is a skill that we're going to teach them. And so having patience with that and modeling it, and one of my favorite ways to model this for kids is to show what we are grateful for about them. And when they start feeling that gratitude back to them, they start getting it, because when we're asking them from gratitude, they get resentful. And they're like, well, why are you telling me I'm supposed to be grateful for this? Because sometimes we're asking for gratitude for things that they don't even want. Right? I'm giving you all this. And they're like, but I don't want all that. Sure. So we have to understand there's a difference between what we're expecting them to be grateful for and what they're actually grateful for.
Well, maybe we try to, change their perspective by telling them stories about what we experienced when we were young. Is that helpful at all? Or should you skip those stories because it might feel like, you're guilt tripping them?
Yeah, I think the second a little bit. It's fun to tell stories, but make them a lot of different stories. I think what makes it more tangible to them is asking them questions like, what are you grateful for? What are teens today grateful for? What makes them happy, or what do they look for? Because now we're not trying to tell them what they should be grateful for. We're asking them. And I'll ask teens this, and most of them will look at me with this puzzled look going, nobody's ever asked me that before. And gratitude is something that we build, and we build that skill by asking that question and connecting the dots, because we know the human brain automatically goes to the negative. We always look to the negative. We have to train it to look for the good stuff. And that includes us as parents in our teens. And then we model that, and our teens start looking for the good stuff too.
No, we want to talk about some of that good stuff. Yeah. I have a good question for you right after this short break. Don't go anywhere, doctor. We'll be right back.
The accident.
Welcome back to Chicago Now. We are talking with the woman dubbed as the teen translator, Dr. Kim Caswell. Thank you so much for staying with us. I wanted to ask you, in this generation that we're in right now, I was telling Gabby in the break, a lot of teens can become so sensitive, closed off. It could spiral into a whole lot of different emotions with depression, etc. Just by having conversations about some of what we've talked about. How can parents, kind of shift the conversation, have a conversation with their child, but making sure that it's not overbearing?
This is a great question, because you're right. Teens will start shutting down, and a lot of times because it feels very personal to them, and they are sensitive, and it feels kind of like an attack. And unfortunately for parents, teens are very sensitive to what their parents are saying, and they read a lot of it as judgment. In fact, research has shown that even if we're trying to be neutral, they will read it as negative. So they get very defensive. So one thing I love to do, it's called psychological distancing, and it's really about asking them questions about teens today, right? How about people your age? What do young adults feel about? And when we start asking them questions about things that aren't specific to them, they can become very insightful, very wise, and you will probably start hearing things that they actually feel. And instead of being kind of judgmental, which we tend to do, and that's from fear, it's okay, but notice when you're doing that and get curious instead and just start going, explain to me more, that's really interesting, or why do you think that? And we start learning about them and having that conversation. The other big piece of this is we don't want to fix what they're telling us. The second we try to fix it, they shut us out, because that's not what they want. They want validation, that their experience is real to them. It doesn't mean we have to agree with it or even understand it, but we have to validate that it's very real to them. Once we do that, it takes their defenses down, and they're like, mom and dad get me. And when we get them, they want to share with us. They really, really do. They just need to know it's safe and that we're actually listening to them and not trying to fix it for them.
You know, and I think that's kind of an answer to my next question, because what Tia said, you know, you're scared of putting them into a spiral, giving them depression, anxiety, which are coined terms that teens are using a lot right now thanks to social media. I don't know if I necessarily could tag my emotions at that age as depression, anxiety. And I could maybe see it being frustrating for parents, thinking, well, you're using depression, anxiety as a scapegoat for, you know, talking back to me or not listening to me. But, you know, if you are validating their feelings, knowing that it's real, that should maybe fix that conversation, huh?
So I love that you brought this up, because depression, anxiety, these are pathologizing emotions that are actually usually like sadness, nervousness, very normal emotions and healthy emotions, and we are starting to take it to extreme. You know, I've had kids come in going, I have anxiety, and it's like, I get nervous before tests. I'm going, well, I would hope you would get nervous before tests. So when our kids start bringing up these big words, and parents, we need to watch that we're not bringing up these big words. Give them more language to use. They're using these words because that's what they hear, but give them more emotional language. That sounds really frustrating. Yeah, I would be nervous about that. It makes sense that you're nervous about that, right? And now we're saying those emotions are not something to be scared of. And for parents, this is important, why we don't want to fix their emotions, because we tend to get uncomfortable if they're anything but happy. And I've had teens tell me it's exhausting pretending I'm happy in front of my parents all the time. We want to let them know it's okay to feel tough emotions in front of us, and we're not going to freak out about it. We're going to be okay with that. Yeah, you're angry. I get why you're angry. We're going to ride that anger out together, and we're going to feel it, because that's the best way through it. And we're going to normalize it and say, yeah, that's a big feeling, and it's a hard feeling, but you've got this.
I like that you said that, because I think that we live in a world where people want to put you in a box. They want you to, you know, they want to basically put what they think your emotions should be onto you all the time. And nobody's happy all the time.
No.
Nobody. No. Like, I am tired today, and I should be able to say that, and it's okay, right? That's not a bad thing.
It is very, very okay. And teens have all the emotions. I mean, they live through their emotions, and so we have to accept every emotion they go through. Otherwise, it's basically rejecting them, not just their emotion, when we don't like it or we try to shut it down. So I think it's so important to normalize them, let them sit through it. It makes it a lot less scary, giving them more words. And the other thing to understand, though, is that teens need to belong, and so defining themselves as having anxiety, as having depression, is actually a way for them to label themselves, and labeling feels comforting because it goes, here's where I belong. I'm in the anxiety tribe, right? So we want to understand that they do need this belonging, so we don't want to like counter it, but we want to give them more words to say that and say, why do you feel that that is your label? Why do you feel like that's what you identify with?
Okay, the teen translator. We're going to have you back. I feel like there's probably a lot more coming from parents. The questions that need to be answered. Dr. Cam Caswell, thank you very much for joining the program.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, stay with us next. We are talking with the president and CEO of the Kohl Children's Museum. We'll have it for you on the other side of this break.
At Sono.
Welcome back to Chicago Now. Maybe you're trying to map out what you're going to do this weekend with your kids. You're looking for a place to go. Maybe a place you've never been before. It is absolutely remarkable. I've been there in the past. The Kohl Children's Museum, right in the heart of Glenview. And here to talk about the Kohl lights is Mike Delfini, president and CEO of the Kohl Children's Museum. I love that you have the light display behind you already, all lit up, and it's absolutely cute. Yes, it is. Tell us about this year's light display. What makes it so unique?
I sure will. So thanks for having me, by the way. So in the Chicago area, there are a lot of big light shows, as we all know, in the big parks. But what makes us unique is that ours is completely interactive, where the kids get to control the lights. So that tree that you see now on the screen, kids are pressing buttons, they're changing the colors, they can do whatever combination they want. There's a twinkle train. They get to ride through the park. Of course, adults are welcome to pile into the car. And they ride through tunnels of lights and firefly meadow that is replicating fireflies in the summertime. Lots of fun interactives. There's one where they can talk into a funnel and they can light up a curtain of light. So if they whisper, it's a small light display. If they scream and shout and sing, we let them do whatever they want. It's a big light display, so it's super interactive. No one does anything like that in the area. And I have to say, it's super easy to do. With generations of family, if you have grandparents coming in for the holidays, you can take them with, and they would love it. So it's a great night. We have Santa on Friday nights. We have Elsa and Anna from Frozen every night. Free popcorn, hot cider, too hot.
I'm there.
Lots of fun things for the kids.
You know what? And I will say, Mike, that it seems like this weekend would be a perfect weekend. Not only is the weather great, but so many people are going to be downtown Chicago for the tree lighting ceremony and then the parade that's happening on Saturday. True. So maybe getting away to Glenview might be perfect. You're probably, I mean, you're going to say yes. Of course, making the trip up to Glenview would be worth it. Maybe getting away from the city for the weekend.
Yeah, totally worth it. I'm in the western suburbs, and it's about a 30, 40-minute drive. Free parking. We're right next to the Glen up here in Glenview, so if you want to make a night of it, although our museum cafe will be open, you can grab a bite to eat before or after right here in the Glen Center, a block south of us. It's such a fun night for the little ones. So if you have that, 2 to 6-year-old in the family, this is the place to be. It's right size for them. And on top of it, we have Curious George special exhibit featuring throughout the holiday season. Who doesn't love Curious George? My spirit animal.
Tell us about the learning aspect, because, I mean, yeah, you can go there now, and that's great to go there for the Kohl lights, but there's also a learning aspect that's there at the museum as well.
Yeah, of course. So along with Kohl lights, the full museum is open. The indoor exhibits are open, and there's 17 of those that are highly curated interactive exhibits for kids. So in each of these exhibits, we build in various types of play. So it can be dramatic play, constructivist play, all designed to get kids, young minds moving and working at this critical time between birth and 5 years old. So all those exhibits are open. And the best example I give is when we take our kids to the grocery store. The grocery store here is the most popular exhibit by far. And I've always wondered why. But you know, when you take your little ones to the grocery store, what do? We put them in the cart and we tell them not to touch anything. True. And that is not the kind of a learning experience they're looking for in the grocery store. So when they come here and they can be the cashier and be the butcher and be the bagger, they just love it, and they will spend hours in that exhibit. So all 17 of those exhibits have that level of play designed into them to keep, again, their young minds moving and learning and growing.
Okay, Mike, I don't want you to go anywhere. We're going to continue to talk about Kohl Children's Museum and Kohl Lights right after this very short break.
Save now.
Welcome back to Chicago Now. We are bringing back in Mike Delfini, President and CEO of Kohl Children's Museum. We're just hearing from people even behind the scenes saying how much they love that grocery store that you were talking about. How even when they were a kid, they spent like hours there. Okay, talking about Kohl Lights again, let's talk about price for people, how people can sign up if they do want to go, you know, this coming holiday season.
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is go to our website, www.kohlchildrensmuseum.org. All the info is there. Members do get a discount, museum members. I will say that we have dynamic pricing. So the first hour of Kohl Lights is the most popular, from 4:30 to 5:30 entry. And that's because we have lights out at 7 o'clock because we know everyone wants to get their little ones nicely tucked into bed at bedtime, so we don't want to interfere with that. That hour is the most popular, but the range is from $22 to $16 depending on your membership and when you actually register. But it's a great night out for the whole family. Older siblings love it. Grandparents love it. It's just a great night. Easy to do. Lasts about 2 hours. You can come inside if it gets a little too chilly. You can go back outside. Ride the train as many times as you'd like. Super fun.
I love it. Mr. Delfini, give folks that are watching right now the website in case they want to look it up.
Sure, www.kohlchildrensmuseum.org.
All right, Mike Delfini, President and CEO of the Kohl Children's Museum. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time out for us today.
Thank you. Have a great holiday.
All right, you too. Happy holidays. It's kind of weird saying happy holidays. I don't know why, but we're here.
I know. Next week. Yeah, this time next week is
I'll
Thursday
be in the
today.
kitchen.
We will have Thanksgiving.
We will have Thanksgiving.
Oh my goodness!
I gotta get the cooking. Yeah.
Do you have any of those like displays planned with Story?
I don't, but I think I am going to go do maybe the Kohl Lights this weekend. I wanted to do some stuff downtown, but I do feel like, you know, kind of like what you hinted at, that it's going to be so many people, and I just don't want to feel overwhelmed. I'm already overwhelmed.
I think last year the tree lighting attracted 30,000 people.
A lot of people.
I remember it being just ginormous. yeah, so maybe just get out. Go to the Western Burbs. Go to Kohl Children's Museum.
I don't know. Maybe I'll cosplay as Sherry Shepherd since my daughter thinks I'm her anyway. And maybe I'll get into a few places. Maybe they'll let me just straighten the front of the line for the Christmas tree lighting.
But you also are Tia Ewing, so I think that's enough.
Nobody. All right. Have a great day, everybody. A safe day. We will see you on Friday.